Every day, one narrow stretch of water controls a massive portion of the world's energy. The Strait of Hormuz, a narrow corridor between Iran and Oman. But despite its size, this passage moves something enormous. Roughly 1/5 of the world's oil supply flows through it. Now imagine something unprecedented happens. Iran announces that oil shipments passing through the Strait of Hormuz will only be allowed if that oil is traded in Chinese yuan instead of US dollars. At first, it sounds like a technical detail, a currency switch, but in reality, it could shake the foundation of the global financial system. Because for decades, global oil has been tied to one currency, the US dollar. And changing that system could change everything. This is Wired Wanderer. The Strait of Hormuz is one of the most important energy choke points on Earth. Every day, around 17 to 20 million barrels of oil pass through this narrow route. Oil from Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, Iran, all flows through this single passage. If this route is disrupted, oil prices surge, markets react, entire economies feel the pressure. But the real power of the strait isn't just about oil. It's about how that oil is traded. Since the 1970s, most global oil has been traded in US dollars. The system became known as the petrodollar system. Here's why that matters. Every country that needs oil needs dollars. So nations around the world hold dollar reserves, trade in dollars, save in dollars. This constant demand is one of the main reasons the dollar became the dominant global reserve currency. Even today, around 60% of global reserves are held in dollars. Now imagine that system begins to change. Instead of oil being priced in dollars, it must be traded in Chinese yuan. This would create what many call a petro-yuan system. Countries buying oil would need yuan instead of dollars. Over time, demand for yuan could rise. Demand for dollars could weaken. Global financial influence could begin to shift. For China, this would be a major strategic move. China is already the world's largest energy importer. Turning oil into a yuan-based market would push its currency onto the global stage. If this change happened suddenly, the short-term effects could be intense. Oil markets would become volatile. Some countries might refuse to comply. Others might adapt quickly just to secure energy. Prices could spike due to uncertainty and disruption. Currency markets would react. Global trade could slow down temporarily as systems adjust. This wouldn't be a smooth transition. It would feel more like a shockwave. This isn't just about oil. It's about power. For decades, the US has held enormous influence because of the dollar's role in global trade. But if energy markets begin shifting to yuan, that influence could begin to change. China could gain leverage over global energy flows. Middle Eastern countries might diversify how they price oil. And the world could begin moving toward a multi-currency system, not dominated by one currency, but shared between several. If oil in the Strait of Hormuz were traded only in yuan, the impact on the United States would be significant, but not one-sided. The risks. The first impact would be on the US dollar. If countries no longer need dollars to buy oil, global demand for the dollar could decline. Over time, that could mean a weaker dollar, higher borrowing costs for the US, reduced global financial influence. The second risk is losing financial leverage. Right now, the US can enforce powerful sanctions because global trade runs through dollar systems. But if countries move outside that system, they gain alternatives. That weakens a major geopolitical tool. And then there's the personal impact. If the dollar weakens, imports become more expensive. That can lead to higher prices, rising inflation, increased cost of living. The strengths. But the US still holds major advantages. First, the US is one of the largest oil producers in the world. If global supply becomes unstable, American energy becomes more valuable. Second, the dollar is deeply embedded in global finance, banking systems, debt markets, investments. Replacing that infrastructure would take decades. Third, in times of crisis, money often flows into the United States. U.S. Treasury bonds are still seen as one of the safest assets in the world. And finally, competition can drive innovation. Pressure on the dollar could push the U.S. to evolve faster. Digital currency systems, new financial infrastructure, stronger economic strategy. Modern conflicts aren't just fought with weapons. They're fought with financial systems. Countries use sanctions, trade restrictions, asset freezes, banking bans. A yuan-based oil system could give some countries a way around dollar-based restrictions. That could reshape how economic warfare works in the future. Even with all of this, replacing the dollar wouldn't happen overnight. The dollar is still dominant in global trade, international banking, central bank reserves. China's yuan still faces challenges: capital controls, less open financial markets, lower global trust. Any shift would likely be slow, measured, and complex. Instead of one global currency, the future might look different. A system where the dollar remains strong, the yuan grows in influence, other currencies play regional roles. A multipolar financial system, more balanced, more competitive, and potentially more unstable. So what does all of this mean for you? Even if you're nowhere near the Strait of Hormuz, decisions like this don't stay local. They ripple through the entire global economy. If oil markets shift away from the dollar, you could feel it in everyday life, at the gas pump, at the grocery store, in the price of everything you buy. Because when energy prices move, everything moves with it. Your savings could be affected by inflation. Your investments could become more volatile, and the value of money itself could begin to shift. But there's another side to this. Moments like these create opportunity, new systems, new technologies, new financial strategies. Because when the world changes, the people who understand it early are the ones who benefit most. The Strait of Hormuz is one of the most important energy arteries on Earth. But the real power of this moment isn't just about oil, it's about money. Because for decades, energy and the US dollar have been deeply connected. And if that connection begins to change, the global financial system could begin to change with it. Because in today's world, the most powerful battles aren't always fought with weapons. Sometimes they're fought with currencies. This is Wired Wanderer, exploring the forces shaping the future of our world.